I didn't expect to play Arkham Origins for a while. After Arkham Asylum, City, and Knight, all in a few months, followed by the entire Church of Arkham Knight having it out for me, I was ready for a little break. Some time away from the Batman. Because I loved Arkham City, and I worried that maybe part of my dislike of Arkham Knight was due simply to burnout. All these games play the same, and they're quite long. That's not an insult, but maybe I was just over the Arkham style of gameplay by the time I played Arkham Knight. Maybe the burnout blinded me to the greatness of that game. It's certainly possible. But here I am, playing Arkham Origins already. And, well, I gotta say, I'm fucking shocked! I had no idea it could be this good! Hot damn, this might even be better than Arkham City. The combat, the new enemy types, the tone, the look, the pacing, the story and character interactions, and the total lack of the Batmobile sections made Origins a pleasure to play. So we can toss the burnout excuse in the trash right next to Arkham Knight, because I thoroughly enjoyed Arkham Origins. It wasn't burnout, all I needed to do was play a game that doesn't suck balls. I even finished it, can you believe it? All it took was a great game, and not a boring tank simulator. I mean, listen, I personally did some calculations, and did you know that the Batmobile sections in Arkham Knight take up 87% of the entire game? That's just too much, man. And it makes me not want to see a car for the rest of my fucking life. And let's get this out of the way right now. Before I get into Origins, something must be clarified. There will be many things I praise in Arkham Origins that I fully admit could be present in Arkham Knight, most notably the high level of gadget integration and the progression of missions. Arkham Origins has even better integration of gadgets and abilities in the early game than Arkham City. 2 bat claws on the grates, and the second one doesn't tell you what to do so you have to remember, 2 explosive gels, an early armored guard to teach you about the cape stun, an early door that gets you to do multiple fast batarangs. They get you into Batman's toolset early, and they consistently build on it. I complained that Arkham Knight's missions in the opening hours, one after another, were just about figuring out a way to make the car do something for you, when what I really wanted was for the missions to make me use the Batclaw, Batarangs, Slide, etc. It's a good way to keep your abilities on the mind of a new player as they're learning the game. It's good game design. Arkham City does this well, Arkham Origins does it better. But Arkham Knight, like I said, was front-loaded with hours of tank combat and puzzles involving the car. When I pointed this out as a criticism, I was told by many that Arkham Knight has those exact kinds of missions that I was asking for, just later in the game. If I hadn't quit, I would have seen the very thing I was complaining was missing. And yeah, but that's my point. The first act of Arkham Knight is so stuffed full of miserable car stuff that it soured me on the whole experience. Car puzzles and tank battles in the campaign missions, car chases in the side missions, car races in the side missions, more tank battles. I couldn't take it anymore. Whatever goodness there is in Arkham Knight that comes later, it's too late. I'm not sticking around anymore. So this is me, right now, saying that every time you hear me say something good about Arkham Origins that also applies to Arkham Knight, don't bother pointing it out, because my response is gonna be, yeah, but the car stuff in the first act ruined the game, so I don't care. Now, I will also mention, before getting into my thoughts, that I'm aware this game launched in a horrible state. Even now, the game has some glaring technical issues, and I can't imagine how bad it was when it came out. I understand that soured a lot of people on the game, and I'm not here to tell them that they're wrong for feeling that way. However, I didn't have that experience. I played the game as it is now, and that game is quite good. While I did have a few moments where I got stuck in the geometry and had to restart, or suddenly had a button just not work anymore, these moments were rare, and most of the bugs I saw were crazy physics reactions that made me laugh, or the occasional audio bug, or an enemy just randomly teleporting. Certainly not enough to lower my opinion of the game overall. Origins was not made by the studio that made the other games. They apparently weren't given as much time as they would have liked to finish it. But what they did accomplish in that time is stellar. Origins uses Arkham City's map and builds upon it in interesting ways. I saw a lot of places I either didn't remember or were actually new, and I think I prefer the look of the city in this game. The snowy Christmas-time environment really sets this game apart from the others and makes old areas feel fresh. And I really enjoyed flying around, taking in the sights. It's a beautiful game. Tonally, it's darker than City, evidenced right away by the difference in menu design, Origins having a black and white menu with red Christmas lights in the background. The dark menu tells you that you're in for a thematically darker experience than Arkham City. But it doesn't go so ridiculously far into darkness like Arkham Knight, which was just black, dark, and serious. Grr, Batman! I remember being put off immediately by that menu before even playing the game, and it was definitely a clear signal of the Batman porn to come. The story was actually quite interesting to me. As someone who's not big into Batman as a character, Arkham Asylum and City were stories that I found a little difficult to get into. Those games are for the Batman fan already into the Batman world. Arkham Origins tells the story of an early Batman, much like the Robert Pattinson film. Batman is out on Christmas Eve while there's a bounty out on his head, and we're introduced to a list of killers that I'm personally unfamiliar with because I don't know the comics. But they were pretty cool characters to go against, instead of the typical Penguin, Harley Quinn, Two-Face, the usual suspects. However, Bane gets a lot of screen time here, I enjoyed that, and I really like how the Joker is portrayed. He just goes wild, we really get to see the chaos he can unleash, and the cinematics with him are truly exciting. I very much enjoyed the conflict of Batman dealing with Commissioner Gordon, him dealing with a corrupt police department, and not wanting to trust this new vigilante running around breaking the law. But the real star of the show is actually Alfred, showing unconditional support to Batman, but also trying to get him to not push himself so hard, as this is still the boy he spent his life taking care of. The best moments of the game are when Alfred is pouring his heart out and laying out some hard truths Batman doesn't want to hear.
Master Bruce, stop! Master Bruce! Bruce, I will not in good conscience allow you to go. You're outmatched by these assassins. You're not some hardened vigilante. You're a young man with a trust fund and too much anger. You're in over your head, and I don't want this to be your end.
You can see how much he cares, and for me, as someone who doesn't look that deeply into Batman, this is the first time I've seen the character of Alfred shown to be so interesting. I think I connected more with Batman this time than I did in the other games, probably because this feels like a better introduction to him and his conflict. He's truly struggling to find his place in the world, establishing himself as a vigilante to be respected. The voice performance is also excellent, and I highly prefer this version of Batman that strings people up or drops them into a Christmas tree over the dark, brooding monster that crushes people's heads under the giant tires of his personal tank. Moving on to villains, Black Mask sets himself up as a strong and mysterious villain early on in the story, before the reveal of his identity, and I was honestly pulled into the mystery. The detective sections had me interested in putting the story together, far more than Arkham City did. Moments like the side quest helicopter crash, reconstructing the scene in Batman's holographic vision, and discovering that Deathstroke took it down with a single ricochet bullet, this stuff is all great. Though I will admit that I'm not a fan of the concept of holographic reconstruction. I think the technology is way too powerful to be believable, especially at a time when Batman is still using CRT televisions in the Batcave. But whatever, it's fine, I guess. While I do think the villains are well introduced, the actual fights, sometimes I liked them, sometimes not. They lean too much on QTEs sometimes, or going through scripted sequences. There's certainly nothing as good as Mr. Freeze from Arkham City. Bane is kinda like Diet Mr. Freeze. It was kinda cool to figure out how to take him down, running him into the electricity, but he wasn't great. The fight against Deadshot was really hit or miss for me, no pun intended. I couldn't figure out when he was gonna punish me for attacking him and when he wasn't, but eventually I understood his patterns and I don't know, it doesn't actually feel like a fight, more of a series of hit this button now and then get some punches in. Firefly was particularly bad. Actually, I don't mind the design as like a set-piece style boss. I was just incredibly annoyed by the game constantly, every time, telling me what to do. You gotta catch him in glue and then throw batarangs at him. And sure, I don't mind the game telling me this once, but every single time you catch him, the game stops to say, "Throw batarangs at him!" It's really condescending. This is Under the Mayo complaining about someone else being condescending. The irony is not lost on me.
If you had bothered to look at the game options, you would have seen that you can turn the hints off. Maybe do a little research before complaining about something so easily fixable.
Y'all gonna make me lose my cool up in here. I know you can turn the hints off, but I like the occasional hints. They show me how to do the moves I'm trying to learn. They remind me of important moves when I'm not using them. But that doesn't mean I need to be told over and over and over during this boss fight. Ad hominem. Catch 22. Occam's razor? Overall, I didn't like these boss fights as much as I wanted to. They had me missing Grundy, that was a cool fight. The upgrade system in Arkham Origins actually has the polar opposite problem that I said Arkham Knight has. Whereas Knight's skill tree was overwhelming and insane, Origins is painfully linear, forcing you to upgrade your health and armor to unlock the more interesting combat options. And while it's great to have a bunch of challenges to get extra points, and I'm not against locking certain upgrades behind the completion of those challenges, the challenge lists in the Dark Knight system must be completed in order, which takes away the ability for some of them to just occur naturally during gameplay. You gotta say, okay, what's next on the ordered list, and then go do it. It sucks. Arkham City continues to have the best upgrade system of the series. Back to the positive, the pacing of Arkham Origins is also much more to my personal preference. Open world games aren't really my thing, though I do enjoy them from time to time. Depends on my mood. But generally, I don't like when a map is just filled to the brim with things to do. I get a little overwhelmed, but that's just me. And I've heard that Origins map is kinda empty and basic compared to City and Night. But really, I didn't mind it. I don't enjoy feeling like I'm being pulled in so many directions at once. Origins had just enough going on to pique my interest in exploring side content. The relative scarcity of side missions actually made them more attractive to pursue, me explico? Investigating crime scenes, following the clues, tracking down killers, I got into it. I took my time before getting back to the main missions. But I will admit, it kinda takes away from the seriousness of the situation. If all these assassins are out there putting innocent people in danger, shouldn't that be the focus? I'm here solving random crimes in the street, so I guess it's not that big of a deal, right? I remember that feeling I had in Arkham City and Arkham Knight, where there were just so many moments of, hey, look at this! Hey, there's something over here! Hey, this character wants to talk to you! I ended up ignoring a lot of it in City just to follow the campaign, and I tried to do more side stuff in Arkham Knight just to end up driving the fucking car more, so I quit. But here in Arkham Origins, because of this great pacing, I actually wanted to follow this Anarchy character and see what he's up to. I went and rescued that cop hanging over the electrified pond, and when I found out that Deathstroke shot down the helicopter, I followed him to bring justice. I'm glad I did, because the Deathstroke mission was the best mission of the entire game for me. He's walking around and aiming his ricochet tracking laser surrounded by guards, with a hostage in the center. Everyone has guns, and you gotta take everyone out before you attack Deathstroke, and when you do, he calls for reinforcements. More armed guards rush in to swarm your position, and then if you take them out, a signal jammer comes in. Deathstroke is constantly making things difficult for you, and once he takes a bunch of damage, he runs over to the hostage, threatening to kill him. If he sees you or even senses you're near, he'll blow him away. I failed this mission dozens of times. It was really hard. I'm playing on the hard difficulty like I typically do. I died a lot, the hostage died a lot. It was very challenging and took me forever, and that's not a complaint. I loved the trial and error process, getting punished hard for my mistakes, and coming up with a winning strategy. Eventually, I had the bright idea to set explosive charges by the entrance after taking out the first wave of soldiers before attacking Deathstroke. I went at him with a couple beatdown stun attacks, and when the reinforcements came in, I detonated all the charges to knock him down, giving me just enough time to get another couple rounds of beatdowns on Deathstroke, triggering his hostage-taking phase, but without actually killing the reinforcements. So the signal jammer didn't come in for the third wave. Then I snuck up on Deathstroke and took him down. Fantastic side mission, with a great build-up surrounding the downed helicopter mystery. Did Arkham Knight have any side missions close to this level of greatness? I played one of the Two-Face bank robbery missions and that was cool. Not nearly as good as this, but maybe they get more complex later on. I wouldn't know, because, car. Anyways, another big reason I enjoyed going after the side content was Origin's addition of the fast travel system. Brilliantly, they allow you to call the Batwing to fly you to different parts of the city, but there are only a few points you have access to, so it's not like the game invalidates all the flying around and exploring on your own. You can liberate more fast travel points later on if you choose to, but I mainly stuck to the ones that were already unlocked and then flew around the rest of the way, cause it's fun. It was also super smart of them to use the rendered cutscenes as loading screens, making the transition feel natural every time. So yeah, fast travel, slowly dishing out side content, great character motivation and conflict, combined with the excellent pacing of campaign missions, frequently utilizing Batman's gadgets and requiring curiosity and problem solving, Origins just kept my attention. A couple new enemy types also shake things up a bit. The karate dudes are a real nuisance, requiring double tap of the parry button when they attack, and they also counter you several times if you attack them. Add in the fact that they're resistant to combo takedowns, and you have yourself someone quite difficult to deal with in large groups. And for me, I couldn't tell if I was coming up against a karate guy while in Predator Vision, so I was caught by surprise. In a way, they felt like an anti-Predator Vision enemy type, which was cool. You want to use Predator Vision to identify guys with guns, but then it's hard to identify karate guys. Cool decision-making based design. Shield guys feel a lot more vicious this time around, and I don't know if I'm imagining it, but they gave me a hard time. Especially when combined with the Bonitos, charging at you across the screen, and you have to beat them down or use a combo takedown to unplug their venom. When you put these guys in a room with shield guys, things get uncomfortable real fast. The added enemy variety takes Arkham City's great combat encounters and just makes them flat out better, and more interesting and tactical. Does Arkham Knight have this kind of challenging and fun enemy variety? Car. As for the combat itself, what more can be said? It's Arkham combat. We all know how it works by this point. It's great. Really, the only thing I can point out is the degree of challenge presented by the fights themselves. And luckily, the early game is suitably difficult. Just like Arkham City, diving right away into street fights demands that you actually pay attention. Unlike Arkham Knight, where I felt like I could play rather sloppy and stupid and get away with it. Yes, I've heard the game gets more difficult later on. Car! There is one thing I don't like, and that's the addition of the shock gloves. They're cool, I loved them at first, but dude, they charge way too fast, even if you're playing really badly on the hard difficulty, and when activated, they trivialize the entire game, turning it into a button masher. It's lame. Every time I activated it, I felt guilty about it because I was ruining the game. And it's not like the combat suddenly becomes balanced for this ability, it's just, hey, hit the instant win button. Yes, you can ignore it. And yes, I did ignore it, because sometimes I didn't want to sabotage the fun I'd been having for 3 days at that point. But come on, it's right there, screaming at me from the middle of the screen. Activate me! Turn on your shock gloves, Batman! And then I just do it, because the game has this message telling me to, and then I regret it. I wish there was more to them than just activating and now you bypass every enemy defensive tactic in the game. You go through shields, you hit karate guys, you don't have to stun big guys anymore. Just mash, mash, mash. I don't like it. Maybe if it took a lot longer to get, but as it is now, you get it automatically even in the simplest of encounters. That's probably my only serious criticism of Arkham Origins now that I think about it, the gloves and some of the boss fights. But I really enjoyed this game. I loved feeling like Batman. The pacing of the experience was well done. The side content was satisfying. And it was nice to not be running over pedestrians at 120 miles an hour, crashing into everything, destroying millions of dollars of public property without a care in the world. Oh, and you know what was a great improvement over Arkham City? Those damn notifications I complained about in my first Batman video. They still pop up in the middle of the screen, which is annoying, but if you complete a challenge during combat, Origins makes it so that they don't show up until the fight is over. Wonderful change. I think I'm going to wrap it up here. I want to thank the viewers who sent me on this Arkham journey. I got to appreciate what Arkham Asylum meant to longtime Batman fans as a love letter to that fan base. I got to live the Batman experience in Arkham City, taking down famous villains and defending the innocent. I got to see the beginning moments of crime fighting, establishing the character as a force for good in a world not ready to accept him. And I got to witness the utterly bizarre pants shitting of hypersensitive masturbating fanboys when I pointed out that their Batman porn game, full of shitty tank sections, was actually a pretty disappointing entry in the series. Now, if you'll excuse me, I gotta go. My wife is calling. Y'all gonna make me lose my cool up in here.